Origins, a map in the heart of France in the middle of World War II. And one thing that doesn't sound safe to me is the trenches of World War II. So today we are going to be checking out exactly how safe Origins is, and we're going to be diving deep into the map to find out exactly what features there are that could be a risk. Welcome to the Safety Check. Here we are, Origins, baby. An amazing map. But today we're not here to talk about how amazing it is. We're here to talk about how safe it is. So let's get started with the low tier risks as usual. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is outside, let's say, because it is the weather on this map. As you can see right now, it's quite nice and cloudy, I guess. Reminds me of England. But we also know that this map can rain and it can snow. Two types of weather conditions that I would rather not be in. And we're talking a lot of rain and snow here, which is not going to be good for us if we're outside constantly. With that in mind, weather elements is going to be a risk, and it is going to get a 60 out of 100. Next on the list for the low tier risks is the tripping hazards on the map. As you can see around here, there are plenty of things that you can fall over. Ropes, wood, crates, bodies, these little piles of bones that you can dig up. There's a lot that you can trip over. I mean, is this meant to be a walkway that you're meant to walk on? Doesn't look like it to me. And this is everywhere on the map. You just can't avoid it. I mean, there's sandbags there as well. Look, it's everywhere, right? It's definitely an issue. So for that reason, we are going to jot it down, and it is going to get a 50 out of 100. Next up on the list, we're going to talk about equipment. Now, there is a lot of stuff just everywhere on this map. You got all of these jars and boxes. You've got all these tools as well. And let's be honest, none of this is realistically stored very safely. It's just hidden in its bunker. And again, it's not a major concern compared to some, but it is still a concern that we have to take into consideration. For that reason, it is going to get a 70 out of 100. Next up on the list, though, which is definitely a lot worse than the equipment, is the hygiene of this map. Now, I mentioned earlier about there being a lot of dead bodies around, and yeah, there's a few to say the least. That's of course not hygienic whatsoever. Imagine having to stay around here for a long period of time and there are just corpses all around you. It's really not good for your health, especially when they're all in the mud and the water as well. Like, these are definitely all decomposing right around you. That's without all the blood and everything else, so it's really bad. For that reason, I have to actually jot it down quite low, and it's going to get a 30 out of 100. Now, our final low tier risk is going to be low tier burns. Now, there is a lot of actual fire on this map as well, which we'll talk about in a bit, but I want to talk about lower tier burns right now. We're talking like little burns like here, or from steam pipes like this. If you put your hand on that, that's going to burn you. Same with pipes like these. That is just completely cracked open. That hits you in the face, then that is going to absolutely burn your face off. And a few smaller fires like this, of course. They're not going to cause you major issues, but they're still definitely going to hurt. So we do have to jot low tier burns down on this map, and it is going to get a 60 out of 100. Now we can get on to our medium tier risks. The first one we're going to talk about is falling. Now, there are a few little spots around this map that you can fall down from and potentially hurt yourself. Nothing major, but they could hurt. Like here, for example, you could fall down this and you could twist an ankle or something. That might hurt a little bit. Or something like this, you could fall down and really hurt yourself. That's a pretty far jump. Now, there's even sections like this hole that you could fall through, which could hurt, you know, that's quite a far jump down. I wouldn't want to jump down that. But the main issue from falling is, of course, with the robot. We all know that you can get inside of those, and when it's out of time, you are thrown to no man's land. And when you get thrown from those robots, you get no parachute or nothing. You just get thrown down. I don't know how we survive, if I'm honest. So yeah, falling is a big risk on this map. So it is going to get a 40 out of 100. Next up on the list, though, is high tier burn. Now, unlike all the steam and tiny bits of fire, we're talking about these big boy fires that are all around the map. I mean, they are everywhere. Like here, for example, and over there, for example. That is literally right next to the walkway. I can touch that. And there's more there, and there's more there, and there, and there, and everywhere. It is everywhere. it's quite a big risk. There is way too much fire on this map right now. I don't even think I need to explain it. For that reason, it is going to get a 40 out of 100. Next up on the list, I want to talk about the machinery. Now, I'm talking about things like power stations. You know, they look quite interesting, right? But then, you know, they got element 115 pumping through them and electric bolts charging all the top of them. What if they just malfunctioned and caught you and exploded on top of you? What if you put your hand in there or your head? I mean, I'm not going to do it. But what if some idiot tried doing it? Huh? There's nothing to protect him from not doing that. And if there's one thing you've got to know when you're talking about safety is you've got to plan for the idiots. How many people have intrusive thoughts now? Come on. I bet you've all seen something and gone, what if I just put my hand in there? Yeah, I'm talking about you. So yeah, there are just little things like that that could be quite a big issue. And then you also have things like cranes that you could definitely hit someone with. Little bits like that, you know? Although, by the looks of it, there's not that many people to actually use the machinery either way right now. But it still does have to get a ranking. And it is going to get a 50 out of 100. Now, the next one we have to talk about is the building stability of this map. For example, this lovely building here. There's not really much left of it. Okay, surely we can find another building that is in better condition, right? How about the church that's on fire? And from the looks of it, missing half of its roof. Not a great start. And half of the side wall here. Not a great start. Good thing these pillars are still structurally safe by the looks of it, just about. But, you know, they still got big holes on the floor, on the roof, more on the floor that I just fell through. Not very good at all. I definitely wouldn't feel very safe walking through those buildings. For that reason, it's going to get a 40 out of 100. Now, let's move on to another medium tier risk. And this time, it's vehicles. And I'm talking about planes pretty much on this map. As you can see, this plane has crashed right next to the map itself. And as you can see above us, there are plenty of planes flying around really close to us as well. All I'm saying is, right, one of those planes, they could get shot down and they could land right on top of us. I mean, look at the abundance of planes going around. You're telling me that not one of them is going to crash land next to us at some point? I don't believe you. So I think it's quite a big risk. I mean, look, that one's on fire. That one is so close to falling down and burning us alive. So yeah, it's a big risk. And for that reason, going to get a 40 out of 100. Now, our second to last medium tier risk actually relates to this section of the map specifically. But if you haven't guessed it already, it's electrocution. As you can see, there's a lot of electric being generated around here. And it's all open and accessible for me to touch. I mean, I can walk up to this. I'm literally touching the electricity right now. I must be some sort of superhuman being able to touch that. To me, that is a no-no on the safety. I should shut you down just for that, realistically. But because it is solely that area, I am going to be generous to you today. And I am only going to give this map a 50 out of 100. Okay, we are on to our final medium tier risk for this map. And it's actually something that you might not be expecting. And it's actually going to be chemical hazard. Now, if you go around a lot of the map, you think there's not actually that much in terms of chemicals, you know. There's a couple of barrels here or there, but none of them signify that they're actually chemicals of any sort. You know, they could just be storing anything. But you've got to remember, our good old friend Bricktoffen and Maxis were doing experiments in this little bunker here. And there is, by the looks of it, a lot of different fancy colored chemicals on the shelves. You got some, of course, there that I just showed you. You got some more different experiments going on here. God knows what that is. And I can't imagine that's the end of it. So there are definitely chemicals that could be dangerous to you as well. And that's without classifying the liquid element 115 as a chemical hazard itself. So yeah, I'm going to put chemical hazards down and it's going to get a 50 out of 100. So we can finally move on to our high tier risks. And the first one we've got to talk about is being crushed. Now, we've mentioned the building stability. By the looks of it, these buildings could fall on you at any time and crush you, which is obviously not a great start. And we talked about the planes potentially being shot down and crashing into you. Also not good. But of course, the biggest risk when it comes to being crushed on this map are these huge robots. Yeah, they could definitely cause you some issues. And I think we've all been in a situation where we have been either nearly crushed by these robots or just straight up crushed by these robots. And it's not something you really want to do, is it? I don't want to be crushed by a robot. It's not my kind of thing, personally. And considering that the only thing stopping you or warning you that these robots are coming, apart from their loud ass sounds, are these tiny little lights that flash when they're about to step in there, that's not ideal and it's not good enough for my liking. I mean, look, just a little red light. That's all that it has stopped me. No barriers or nothing. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to get stomped on by that at all. So being crushed is a big risk, and it is going to get a 10 out of 100. For our second high tier risk, we are actually going to go with impaling. As you can see, a lot of these barricades have been designed in a way that you can't climb over them. You'll either be impaled by these little spikes on the barbed wire, or you'll be impaled by the spike itself. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there's quite a few of these spikes with dead bodies on them. Now, I doubt that they've all just fallen on these, you know? Instead, they've been put up there on a spike. But still, there is way too much of a chance of getting impaled by any of these spikes on the map. And for that reason, it's actually going to get a 15 out of 100. Our third high tier risk for this map now is going to be drowning. There is actually a fair bit of water on this map, like here, you know? A lot of it in the trenches from where it's been raining. And this is pretty much all around the map. Like, I've just walked over here and there's more of it. Carry on walking over here. And funny enough, surprise, surprise, you'll end up with more water. It's in most places around the map. And, you know, you don't need a lot of water to drown. So for that reason, it is going to get a 20 out of 100. Now we have one final high tier risk to talk about, and it's explosions. Now, I've seen a few barrels around in bunkers, which could be chemicals, could not. I'm not sure. We haven't got that much information. But nonetheless, they could explode on us, you know? They could be lethal. I mean, they're just sat here. I don't know what's in them. They could be explosive. If they're not labeled up, that's not good enough. They could be dangerous. They could explode. But then as well, you've got to remember, this is an active war zone. There are going to be lots of different types of explosions around this place and explosives that could cause harm, like these propane tanks and fuel tanks. They could definitely cause an explosion. And there's a few of these around the map, which could cause us some issues. Now, this is not safe enough for my liking. For that reason, it's going to get a 20 out of 100. But with that said and done, we can finally move on to the miscellaneous risks on the map. Now, the first one we've already spoken about a fair bit. It's the robots. Like I said, they keep on walking through, stomping on you, and not really helping whatsoever. They could definitely crush you, like we've mentioned. But then, like we've also mentioned, you can actually get inside of these things, and then they just throw you out from like 50 feet up in the air. And considering you can have 3 of these things walking at you at one point, it takes up a lot of the map. And what's to stop them from like just changing directions or even targeting you? I don't know. Could be a possibility. So yeah, they're definitely a risk, and they are going to get a 10 out of 100. I mean, this is the only chance I'm going to get in a robot like this. That is the only way of entering this thing. That is not a safe way to enter it. And like I said, the only way to get out of here is to go through one of these chutes. Look how high in the sky I am. How do I even survive that, man? I'm not going to ask questions. Next up on the list is the tank. This absolute beauty of a machine that we can just get on and activate like it's nobody's business. Look at us go. We're off. And sure, if just standing on here wasn't bad enough, there's no barriers on the side barely, and there's flamethrowers on the side as well that just shoot while you're going along. So if you like fell off or stood too close, you could get definitely hit by that flame. And of course, there's no stopping this thing. I mean, look, it's not stopping for me. It's trying to push me out of the way. That's pretty dangerous in my opinion. I'm now running away from a tank. So yeah, tanks are pretty dangerous. But luckily, it only moves if you activate it. So for that reason, it will only get a 50 out of 100. Something that, in my opinion, is a lot more dangerous, though, is actually on our feet and probably our body and hands and everywhere. It's the mud. Because of the amount of rain that we've had around and the fact that, you know, it's all been dug up and everything from being made into trenches, there's a lot of mud around and it's not good. We're constantly walking through this, getting muddy and cold and wet. You know, the chances that I have trench foot by the time I leave this place are quite high. It's really not good for you, and it slows you down on top of that. So yeah, the mud is actually going to get a 5 out of 100. Now we have 2 more miscellaneous tier risks to talk about, and the first one is going to be element 115. There is so much of this on the map. I mean, it's under beds, it's just on the racking on the sides, it's on workbenches, it's everywhere. Wherever you look, there is element 115 on this map. It is ridiculous. And I mean everywhere. I mean, look, you can literally use it as torches at this point. There's so much of it. And of course, we all know that element 115 is not good for humans to be in it for too long. So I'm a bit concerned because, like I said, this is everywhere. And by the time that I'm done with this map, I think I'm going to be a bit crazy. So with that much element 115 being around the map, I have to go quite low on this. And it is going to get a 20 out of 100. Now we are on to our final miscellaneous tier of video. And for this one, we actually have to go to a different part of the map. Yes, we're not going to be in the trenches for much longer, because the next spot that we have to go to is the risk itself. And yes, it's the crazy place. So not only do I have to go through a portal that is opened by a gramophone, which is a very odd way of getting into here. Like, imagine if it just stops working. You're screwed. You're stuck in here forever. But this place doesn't look like it would be good for you to stay in. First things first, I'm pretty sure this is all element 115, right? So that's going to drive us insane. Which links to my next part, which is, of course, its name, the crazy place, which probably relates to all the 115 that's in here, driving people insane. And that's not on top of, you know, having like fire on the floor, lava underneath you, lightning all around you, ice around you, and wind all around you, you know? Lots of different elements in here as well to not help out. And of course, we know that all of these stones can actually move up and down. So you could get crushed by these as well if you're not careful. Some of these could come down on me while I'm walking around. Now, the only thing that's preventing it from getting a lower score is the fact that you have to physically open a portal and come here to actually, you know, be in the crazy place. So for that reason, it's going to get a 40 out of 100. But with that said and done, that is all of the risks for Origins. Now, do we really need to go through safety features? I don't think so. The only thing I really spotted was some gas masks, which is good if you're, you know, fighting the war. But in any other situation, it doesn't really do much. So in my opinion, it doesn't really have any safety features. But with that said and done, let's just recap on the risks that we have found for this map. And we have weather elements with a rating of 60, tripping hazards with a rating of 50, equipment with a rating of 70, hygiene with a rating of 30, low-tip burns with a rating of 60, falling with a rating of 40, high-grade burns with a rating of 40, machinery with a rating of 50, building stability with a rating of 40, vehicles with a rating of 40, electrocution with a rating of 50, chemical hazards with a rating of 50, being crushed with a rating of 10, impaling with a rating of 15, drowning with a rating of 20, explosions with a rating of 20, the robots with a rating of 10, the tank with a rating of 50, the mud with a rating of 5, element 115 with a rating of 20, and the crazy place with a rating of 40. That has to be a record for the amount of risks that we have found so far on a single map. And I'm not surprised. It is Origins after all. But when you put all of those scores together, you get an average score of 36 out of 100. Now, bear in mind, we have a lot of risks, like I just said. And to be precise, we have over 20 risks, which means we get a -10 because there are that many risks on the map. On top of that, we also get a -5 because there are 5 or more high tier risks on the map. So when you put all of these scores together, you actually get a grand total rating of 21 out of 100. Yes, Origins gets a 21 out of 100. That is an all-time low for the Call of Duty franchise. It might be an amazing map, but it is not safe for you. And the proof itself is in the tier list. Origins is now the lowest ranked map that we have ever ranked Call of Duty histories, beating Die Rise by 3 points. We have a new champion for the most unsafe map in Call of Duty. The question is, will we get a less safe map than Origins? I can think of a couple that could compete, but only time will tell. And you never know, it might be sooner than we expect, because our next map, Shadows of Evil. I can't imagine that's a safe map. I know it's in a nice city, but it's got its features. But that is the end for today's video. Now, if you want to see Shadows of Evil safety check, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more. and let me know what rating you think Shadows of Evil will get. But on that note, I think it's time for me to get out of here before I am at further risk, because I think the longer I stay here, the worse off it's going to get for me. So I am going to get the hell out of here as quick as I can. So we are going to say goodbye today, and we are going to say, as always, stay safe.